Hello, everyone. I hope you are all having a fantastic week. Welcome to another episode of Tell Me About Your Dog, the show with one simple purpose to hear about your dog and what makes him special. I'm Sam. I'm a licensed veterinary nurse here in the sunny state of Florida, a pet insurance advocate, and lover of all things senior pets. But enough about me. Let's talk about your dog. My next caller comes from East Hanover, New Jersey. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hey, Sam. I'm well. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Chris, please tell us about your dog, starting with their name, their breed, and how they became a member of your family.
All right. Roxy, she was a lab terrier mix. Um, I was dating this woman at the time, and we decided to get a dog. So we went to a couple shelters, and we didn't see anything we really liked. Like I usually find a dog that just jumps out once they go to the shelter. And we went to this one shelter, and I knew the woman that worked there, and we found this dog, and it just like jumped out, and I was like, okay, this is the dog that I want. So we filled out the paperwork, and I said, they where we lived in the apartment, we needed proof that we could have a dog, and I said, a dog live in the apartment. So I said, well, we could come back on Tuesday and have the paperwork for you. They said, well, we can't guarantee the dog's going to be here. And the manager walks in the office and whispers in the person's ear and says, and she comes back and says, unless you can take the dog today, then that we could forego the paperwork till Tuesday. So with not really planning on it, we packed up a dog, had, within an hour, had the dog in the car, and we left to go home with the dog. Her name was Tika, I think it was, and we changed it to Roxy. And they said that she was going to be they said she was a 3 to 6 month old lab puppy, and she looked like a lab. She had some lab in her. Took her to the vet during the week after we got her, and the vet's like, she's about a year old. So I thought we are going to get, a 60, 70 pound dog. She turned out to be a 45 pound dog. So it was probably the smallest dog I've ever had. Um, and, we changed her name and she fit right in.
So, how long was it just you and Roxy?
Um, Probably about maybe 4 or 5 years. So we lived in three different apartments. We moved to three different apartments, so it was just us. Um, and then we, when I met Allison, it was probably after about a year. We moved. We moved into Allison's townhouse. So again, Roxy was fine with the move. She didn't care about that. It was a whole new place to hang around. And we moved in with Allison, and Allison never had a dog before. She never owned any dogs. And I said, Roxy's easy. I said she's an easy dog. She doesn't chew things. She doesn't mess anything in the house. She wants to eat all the time, but other than that, I said she's very easy. Take her out on walks 3 or 4 times a day, and that would be pretty much all that she would need. She needs a window to look out, and she needs a bed or a couch to lay on, and she's fine. So
How long did it take for Roxy to accept that Allison was here to stay?
um, it took a little bit of time. When we first got together, it was funny. We're at my parents' house. We met at my parents' house. My parents were away for a few days, so I was staying there, and we went and sat on the couch. Me and Alice were sitting on the couch. Roxy hopped up on the couch, laid in between us, put her back to me and her feet towards Allison and pushed. And she tried to push Allison away. And she didn't want Allison getting in between me and her. Roxy was thinking, well, you can't get between us. But it took a little bit of time, maybe a couple weeks. And then she was okay with us being around. She stopped trying to push her away. But she tried to when we first got together, she did try pushing her away.
Is Roxy still with us or has she crossed the bridge?
No, she's crossed. We had to put her down in February. February this year. It was Valentine's Day of 2025.
Mm.
So, and it was pretty much 14 years, maybe 14 years in a week. That she was with me.
Mm.
So I had her for 14 years, um, and we pretty much did everything together. So in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to bring Allison into the conversation. Do you think we could have her join us?
Sure, bring her on.
Hi, Allison. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So Chris was telling us some stories about Roxy, and he was talking a little bit about when you entered the picture, how there was a little bit of a little bit of a territory conflict at first that she wasn't so sure about you. I would love to hear what you guys went through and how you broke that barrier.
Oh, Roxy. I think she liked me. First, I fed her and gave her treats and brought her toys. So, what's not to like? But she did get a little bit jealous. She was great with me and she would snuggle up to me and let me pet her. But if Chris and I sat down on the couch, she would get in between us and then take her back legs and kind of put them against me and push me away. And she was like proclaiming her territory. Um, I always thought to myself, I can't believe I'm going to be like fighting for this guy's attention with a dog. But uh, in the end, I think the turning point was she came to my house. Chris had told me when we first met that he came as a package deal with Roxy, and how would I feel about having a dog in my house? I said, well, I've never had a dog in my house, so let's try it out. And she came over and she went in every room and sniffed every corner and looked around. And I knew that I was going to be okay the moment she sat down in front of one of the set of sliding glass doors, as if that was going to be her domain and she was going to be fine. But still, if we sat together on the couch, even for another month or so, she still got in between us and pushed me away. Um, I think everything kind of broke down with one day I came home to my house and there was Roxy. And I said, where's your owner? And she just stood up and wagged her tail. And I realized I'm her owner now, too. So um, she realized she could play me. That first day or 2 days, she got me to take her out for a walk easily 9 times in that afternoon. And I called Chris and I said, something is wrong with Roxy. She obviously needs to go out way too often. And he said, nope, she's playing you. And she did. She would walk outside and get her walk and sniff around and bark at inanimate objects or leaves that blew by her. And she and I just bonded. For me, she was my first dog, and she was by far the best first dog anybody could have.
That's great. And as you and Chris got closer, did you and Roxy also get closer and build a bond together?
Definitely. We would have in our old house when she was younger, when we had the house before this one, and we would have girls' night on the couch. She would jump up on the couch with me, and it would be girls' night. And I think we understood each other. I don't. That sounds maybe strange to say, but I really do. She understood each other. She knew that I was there. I was there for her, and she just was great. You know, Roxy and I were in a national magazine photo shoot together,
Oh, wow.
so we
Tell
will
me more about
always have
that.
that. The magazine, I don't even know if it's published anymore. It was called Live Happy, and they were doing a piece. And they originally wanted a piece of Chris and I and Roxy. And in the end, they used a picture of Roxy and I. And it's something that I'll never forget. It was I don't know, proclaiming that the two of us were a team. And we did bond though. Chris believes because when he rescued her, they wrote down that her birthday was in August, which was the day before mine. So we were August um, birthdays, I guess, together. Roxy in 2020 battled and beat cancer, and I battled and beat cancer 2 years later. She and I, we got each other. I I miss her more than I can say, and I think about her every day. And while being sad, I smile because we just had some great adventures.
How was Roxy there for you while you were going through all your cancer treatments? Was having her by your side, did that make it a little bit easier?
It definitely did. It's funny. My first surgery before we knew that I really did have cancer. Um, I came home, I was woozy, and I went into our guest room because it had a television and a bed, and I could watch TV and I could relax. And um, Roxy never did this. before and never did it after. But she came into that room and jumped up on the bed. She never did that. She jumped up on the bed and she lay on the side where I had the surgery. And she just lay there.
Wow.
And I remember thinking how how weird it was, but how oddly comforting it was. And I just didn't want her to go. It's like she knew I needed something more. And she just got up there and she didn't move and she didn't ask for anything. She wasn't doing it except just to be there for me. And that was huge.
Sounds like just having her presence meant so much during such a really difficult time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, having her presence at any time meant it. But then it was when she jumped up on that bed, it really made me realize she's human. She understands something is wrong and she wants to help in any way she can. And that was her way. And it was awesome.
No matter what's going on before or after the situation, dogs know when something is not right. And they go from, I'm not so sure about you as friends. What are we? They go into an instinctive, I'm here to protect you mode, and they become your comfort.
You're totally right. I would never have understood that without her. It's incredible. It's incredible. She was, I'm sure Chris talked about this too, but I mean, Roxy was definitely part human, whatever breed, lab, terrier mix, definitely part human. She made her point clear. She told you what she wanted. She told you, she just,
She knew what she
she's,
wanted and when she
yeah.
wanted it, and she would make it a point to make her point heard.
Oh yeah. She, in our old house and in this house too, she had a Kong. She had several Kong to hold her treats. And if she wanted Kong, and you weren't understanding that, she would take it and throw it down the stairs. And then you would hear like boom, 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 boom. And you'd look and this Kong would be coming flying down the stairs. And in our old house, she would jump downstairs following it, awaiting the treat that obviously was going to be inside the Kong by that point. But when she got older, she would just throw it down the stairs and you'd go to pick it up and you'd see her at the top of the stairs, tail wagging, just smiling like, okay, now I know what's coming.
She wanted to just get your attention to make sure you knew
Oh
it was Kong time.
Oh yeah, and for Roxy, it was always calm time. But yes, she really she got it. She was human. You would tell her to do something, and she would do it. She understood what you meant, and she got her point across. She really did.
Allison, Chris mentioned that Roxy was pretty much your first dog that you ever had.
Mhm.
How was it like experiencing her declining in her health and eventually having to say goodbye?
I apologize if I cry. Um, that was the hardest thing I think I've ever seen. She, Chris knew, Chris had prepared me for a long time of how it is to lose a dog. And I heard him, but I never truly understood it until it started to happen. I mean, Roxy was 15 and she was slowing down. She had her spark or her moments of still spark. If she saw a squirrel she wanted to chase, or if our other dog Jack got in her face, she would get him, or she would get Jack to play. She had those moments, but they were coming fewer and fewer as time went on. And the last week, she was declining pretty rapidly. It was getting harder for her to get up. She was sleeping and like really soundly sleeping a lot more. And you'd watch her to make sure she was breathing. Um, the last couple days, Chris said to me, "We're going to have to make a tough decision." And I was like, "No, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. We'll take her to the vet and whatever it is, it will be okay." And he said to me, "The vet is not going to be able to help. We're going to have to make some tough decisions." And I was probably, not probably, I'm sure Chris would say, I was a pain about it because I'm like, no, we don't make those types of decisions. That is not up to us. Um, However, the last 2 days, even though she had huge resurgence of energy and roxiness when we had her goodbye party, um, those last 2 days, and especially her last night in the final morning before she declined, before she passed away, was awful. Um, I never ever want to see anybody, human or animal, suffer like that again. It was awful. But her last, we had a goodbye party for her. It was Valentine's Day, and we called my brother-in-laws and our niece, who had never ever known a moment without Roxy. We called them, and they came over, and Roxy jumped up when she saw them, and she's tail wagging. She's all excited, and that night she had pizza, and she and I shared some salmon, and she took pictures with everybody. She had a great goodbye, and she gave our niece the best final moments she could. But overnight, Roxy's breathing became very labored. I don't think any of us slept. And then about 4:30 in the morning, she got up, and from that moment on until she passed away at 10:30, she was never left alone. We sat with her on the floor in the kitchen, and we went outside with her, and we lay with her. And all I kept telling her was, it's going to be okay. And all the great people and great dogs she was going to get to see, and she was going to get to get all the treats she wanted. And it was awful to have her go, but it was a relief to not see her suffer anymore.
Of course. That's the hardest day in any pet owner's life is the day you have to say goodbye. And I argue that sometimes making that decision and coming to the conclusion that it's time is even harder because you're balancing the decision of, is it time? Is it too soon? Am I being selfish? Am I being selfless? And it sounds like you guys made the most selfless decision you could ever make for her, which is giving her a goodbye party, a great ending, being around the people that she loved the most. I mean, what better end of life celebration could a dog ask
Yeah.
for? That sounds incredible.
She it really was. I mean, in all honesty, she would not have survived the next hour. Um, the she wouldn't have. It was just too painful. But
Mhm.
she, in her final moments, she lay against Chris, which is exactly where she always wanted to be, and he just held her, and then she crossed the rainbow bridge, and that was what should have happened. I It was, yeah, it was awful. I will say she leaves reminders for us here all the time. You can vacuum all you want, but her hair just seems to keep reappearing from places that have been cleaned now. Um, I can't even tell you how many times. And every so often, it just a tuft of her hair appears, and I laugh and I think, okay, Rox, thank you. Um, and she gave us the best life possible, and due to, in huge part, I mean, I'll take some credit too, but in due to huge part from Chris, he gave her the best life.
Sounds like no matter what, she wanted to leave her mark wherever she went, whether it was just her and Chris or the two of you in her home. And
Oh
after
yeah.
after she left, she's still leaving her
Yeah.
mark, which is incredible.
She visited something like 8 or 9 states in her life. She was a welcome guest in so many people's homes. She got my dad to walk her at 11 p.m. up in Massachusetts. I mean, my father is a huge dog lover, a huge animal lover. My mom, not so much. And that's why Roxy was my first dog when I was an adult, and we didn't have one before. But even my mom, who was, iffy on dogs, had Roxy stay over at their house several times. And yeah, my dad would proudly take her out at 11 at night to go walk her around the neighborhood. And it was, she really, she left an indelible mark on everybody's lives, everyone who knew her.
Oh, that is an incredible story that you all have with her, and I am just so happy to be able to share her story, and thank you guys for taking the time to share it. I want to close off with one final question for Allison. Can be just you, it can be Chris, it can be both of you together. What is one memory that you have with Roxy that you will never forget?
Roxy liked to stalk rabbits. She loved to stalk rabbits. If you were on a walk with her and she saw a rabbit, she would stop dead in her tracks, pick up her front right paw, and like wait and just wait. And she wasn't moving and she would just stand there and wait. I mean, this could go on for minutes. And if Chris or I made any sound, she would turn her head and look back at us as if to say, I'm working here, and just sit there with her paw going and just wait it out until that rabbit made a move. She wouldn't always chase the rabbit, but man, she was going to be ready to pounce if the opportunity came. And she just, she was a happy dog. She loved the mornings. If you got up for the airport at 3 a.m., she was standing there, tail wagging, like, here's another day. It's time to feed me breakfast. What are we doing now? She greeted every day with a smile. And if I could take one thing from Roxy and be like her, that's what I aim to be.
I love that. I love that Roxy has still had so much of an impact even after she's not here in the physical world anymore. That is such an amazing lesson to leave behind for everybody. Well, Chris and Allison, I am so glad you guys took the time out of your day to talk about Roxy, share her story, share a little bit about you two and how you met and how the three of you came together with Jack. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And thank you again for sharing her story.
Thank you for keeping Roxy's memory alive.
It's my honor.
Thank you, Sam.
Have a great one.
You too. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. There are 2 days that no one prepares you for as a pet owner. And that's the first day that they come home and adjust to your new life, and the day you have to say goodbye. And Allison shared some really important points where she saw that Roxy wasn't enjoying life anymore. And I don't think anyone can prepare you for that day, no matter how many times the vet tells you there's no cure for this. Let's keep her comfortable. It still is so painful to go through. And that is all for this episode of Tell Me About Your Dog. Please be sure to follow the show on Spotify and YouTube, and follow Tell Me About Your Dog podcast on Instagram, where I would love to hear your dog stories and any topics you'd like to hear more about. I'll see you next time.